Okay, so let me just give a little bit of a brief kind of a background so that we sort of know what the heck we're talking about here before things show up on the screen and they already showed up on the screen, but so that you know what you're looking at. So basically, with each person that comes up, there's a lot of data cleaning that has to happen. And so I've been trying to do that in between things, not super successfully. So basically right now I've got a bunch of raw data. But what I started was right at the very beginning, when I have time to clean data, go back to subject 1, clean all their data, look at it, go to subject 2. So at this point, I've only got 2 subjects that I've got enough data to look at and do anything with. But it's something to look at, right? Austin happened to be subject 1. He said it was okay if I shared his name, so I checked first. And so basically, just as a reminder of kind of what we did, right? We did a recording at baseline where he was looking at the materials, colored paper and Uno cards without a mask, right? So that's like the baseline. Like what does your brain do when you're just looking at something, right? So we got that as a baseline. Then we did several additional recordings. One was imagination. So I didn't give him anything. He had a mask on and just said, imagine a blue piece of paper. Tell me how clear it is, right? We go through a series of those. Then we did a pinhole mask. Those of you that have done the pinhole mask, it's very interesting. Literally, it's a safety pin. There's 3 holes on each side. And it's weird. You put it on, you're like, oh, I can see through these. Thinking that might actually be an interesting training thing for people.
Well, and we do that. I give out 2 masks, one with a pinhole in it.
Okay.
And it works. It helps turn on the Mindsight.
There you go. But asking them to specifically look through the pinholes. And the purpose of that is because, of course, one of the criticisms is that people say, oh, there's a flaw in the mask that you're looking through. That's why you can see stuff. It's not Mindsight. So it's like, well, let's see what happens when you look through pinholes in a mask. And so then we can control for that. And then finally we have the Mindsight data. And so what we did was I've got all these data sets. And then essentially what I did was run an analysis where I could take 2 different recordings and compare them to each other. So essentially subtracting them. So then what you're seeing is what's the difference, right? So like what's the difference between eyes open viewing and Mindsight? What's the difference between pinhole, mask, and Mindsight? Now, because the EEG is very sensitive to noise, muscle tension, and things like that, it often messes up all the frontal electrodes, right? I practice a little bit myself and I know what happens. You put the mask on and all of a sudden you're going, and making these crazy faces, which just creates all kinds of muscle tension up here, right? And just wreaks havoc on the EEG. The good news is that your visual processing is way back here. And so even if you're kind of moving your face around and doing weird stuff, this doesn't get affected very much. So at least preliminarily, if that's a word, we're going to focus on this because we know it's pretty clean, right? As opposed to the stuff where it's really messy. So that's what you're seeing here. This is a rotated head. So it's focused on the occipital lobe at the very back. So that's kind of what you're seeing. This snapshot, again, this is Austin's data. This is comparing eyes open viewing to Mindsight. So it's saying, what's the difference between just looking with your eyeballs and looking with Mindsight? So this first image is delta brain waves, the differences. Delta is the slowest brain wave. So when the color is green, it basically means there's no real difference between the 2 conditions. It was about the same. When the colors get cooler, light blue into dark blue, then there was less, in this case, delta, during Mindsight. When the colors get brighter, yellow, orange, red, and then kind of a whitish gray, it means there was significantly more of whatever that brainwave is compared to the baseline. Does that sort of make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we're looking at delta, and you can see on the right side, not much change. On the left, it got much quieter. The delta decreased. Usually when delta decreases, that suggests sort of an activation, because delta is a slow brainwave, right? So if you think of delta as being like going to sleep, it's like, well, you're not asleep, right? So the delta goes down. It's more of an activated state. So we see the delta kind of goes down. Here's theta. Looks very similar. And that's pretty typical. Delta and theta often kind of behave in similar ways. It's another slow brainwave. Not as dramatic as the delta, but more of a decrease. Nothing.
Oh, wow.
There's alpha. So alpha, there's a significant increase back there. And that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, alpha tends to go up when we close our eyes. That's one of the characteristics of alpha. Is you close your eyes, your alpha increases. Now, nobody's eyes were closed. Austin's eyes weren't closed, right? But yet there's the alpha. Alpha is also associated with an internal awareness, which is one reason when you close your eyes, alpha goes up. You close your eyes, your attention goes inward. You open your eyes, your attention goes outward, right? So it's interesting, eyes are open, but yet the alpha's cruising up. The other thing alpha does is filters information. So I've heard a few of you talk about how you're really focused when you're doing the Mindsight. Like there's nothing else you're paying attention to, you're just zoned in, right, on this thing. So it's possible that there's an element of that too, that you're filtering out all the information so you can just hone in on the one thing. Here's beta. So now we're getting into fast brain waves. So nice increase of fast brainwave activity. Now this is interesting because it's leaning pretty heavily toward the left. And this is interesting because the way visual processing works, some of you probably know this, that what you see in your right visual field gets processed in the left occipital lobe. And what you see on the left visual field gets processed on the right side. And if I'm remembering correctly, Austin can correct me here, but if I'm remembering correctly, he was looking out of his right window, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking out the right window, and guess what? The left occipital lobe lights up. Here's high beta, so it's even faster. And now you're starting to see a little bit of that white in the corner. And remember I said white is even higher than red? It's even a bigger increase. And look, it's super loaded over to the left, right? Which is pretty cool. And then here's gamma. So gamma and high beta are usually pretty similar because they're right next door to each other. But again, you can see some of that white, it's kind of buried under the red a little bit. So it's interesting, right? So the slow brain waves, not much going on there, or if anything, they decreased. But then when you get into alpha and the faster brain waves, you get this big increase. So this has been a semi-consistent pattern that we've seen. It'll be fun to look at all the rest of the data, because this is pretty much, I think, what I saw with Dahlia. Anybody that knows Dahlia? Slow brain waves didn't do much. Alpha and all the fast stuff cranked up. So there may be something to that. Again, I suspect there's going to be individual differences because we're all individuals. Do we have time to look at maybe like pinhole versus?
Sure.
Just look at one more real quick.
Yep.
Can I ask a random question?
Of course.
Do most women open on the left and most men open on the right?
Wow.
I've not seen that. What's interesting is that so far, just observing, sometimes I ask, but just observing what people have done upstairs. So I've got an N of 9 at this point. Almost everybody has gone to the right. There have been, I think, 2 people that have gone to the left.
Interesting.
It doesn't seem to have much to do with, gender or anything else. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I practice a little bit, like I said, and for me, my right side is usually the strongest. The left, sometimes, every once in a while I'm surprised because I'm like, nothing on the right, and then I'm like, oh, there it is. But usually the right is what I can kind of lean on. All right, let's look at the pinhole real quick. This is still Austin. I would love to look at all of them, but
We can.
So this is comparing the pinhole viewing, and I think this one's really interesting because it's a little bit more of a direct comparison in certain ways. Now this is the whole head. I'm going to put this up, even though I just told you a minute ago that we've got to be careful looking at this. But what I'm noticing is that what I'm seeing with artifact, all that noise, muscle tension and stuff, with the pinhole often looks very similar to the Mindsight, which kind of makes sense because even though there's pinholes, you still have to kind of like squint and squeeze a little bit to see through the pinholes. So it actually makes a little bit more of a better direct comparison. We still have to be cautious, but we might as well look at the whole head. So this is what I mean, like you see all this white at the very, very prefrontal. That's probably noise, right? That's probably not real, so we don't want to read too much into that. But it's kind of cool to see the whole head top-down view. This is delta. So, kind of a mixed bag there. Got some places with increases, some places with decreases. like that. There's theta, pretty similar, again, just like we kind of expect. Delta and theta often. There's the alpha. So again, this is comparing the pinhole. And so, you know, again, we have to be a little bit cautious about how we interpret things, but that's pretty interesting that it's so loaded over to the right again. And again, you know, you could imagine that if you're looking through pinholes or you're doing Mindsight, you're probably, I'd have to look at my notes, but again, if I remember right, Austin was still kind of leaning over to the right. And one of the instructions I've been giving people is like, even when you're doing the controls, see if you can orient what you're looking at in the same way you might during Mindsight, right? So that, you know, we don't have a weird eye thing going on. So, got this right loaded alpha up in the frontal lobes. There's beta. Hello. Again, we got to be a little bit cautious. We don't know how much of that is real and how much of it.
I was intentionally not doing the level of facial strain that I would normally do with Mindsight.
With the Mindsight or the pinhole or both?
Like, at any point, I was making sure to keep that into account of
Yeah.
not expressing my face as much as I would
Yeah.
otherwise. But yeah.
And that's what, you know, Austin ended up being a really good subject for that, right? Because, I mean, some people have different levels of being able to do that, right? Of not being able to scrunch your face and things. And so, obviously, that always makes it cleaner data. You know, it's tricky. I'm still trying to figure that one out. There's high beta.
Wow.
Whole thing's lit up.
Yeah, pretty balanced.
There's gamma.
Wow.
That's very balanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's very
Nice
pretty.
job, Austin.
Yeah,
he's
got
a-
a pretty brain.
He's
Yeah. This is a pretty
Look at
brain.
that
He's a
brain.
gamma head.
Look at the brains on him.
Okay, now we've got it rotated, so this is more, you know, we can feel a little bit more confident about this data. This is the occipital lobe again in the very back. This is that delta. Looks actually pretty similar to what we saw comparing eyes open viewing to Mindsight. So that's interesting all by itself, that looking through pinholes is kind of, looks like the same. I should run that analysis actually. Run eyes open viewing to pinhole and see what that does. Great, another analysis to do.
We appreciate your effort.
Thanks. It's always funny when I get into these situations, I don't realize how much extra time it takes for the data analysis till I get the data. It's like, oh yeah, piece of cake. And then I'm like, oh shit.
And this is really the first time that this has been done, ever, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard stories of people that have collected some EEG
Okay.
data, but apparently they're not sharing.
Okay.
Oh.
So this will be made public and
Yeah,
published?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, once we get enough data, we plan on publishing this. We still just have to figure out the best way to kind of look at everything, because there's,
To compare.
yeah,
Oh,
there's that alpha.
nice, Austin.
Yeah.
You're on fire.
Yeah, beautiful
Call me an
increase.
alpha.
Beautiful increase of alpha.
He's an alpha male.
And it makes sense that it's a little more symmetrical this time, right? Because of the comparisons are a little more similar. There's that beta. Got that nice, look at that right-sided beta just like
Oh,
lit
yeah.
up. There's the high beta, again, very symmetrical. So what's interesting is there's even a little bit more of an increase on this one, I think, than on the just eyes open viewing. Not sure why yet, or maybe it's not meaningful, but it's interesting. And then there's that gamma, you know, nice gamma. It's interesting that in this comparison, things are loaded a little bit more to the right. Again, it's a more fair comparison. So that's interesting. It's interesting for a couple of reasons. You know, a lot of the work I've done previously with psychics and mediums, there's certain areas of the brain that show up frequently as being involved. Usually it's right hemisphere stuff, which just makes sense. Not always, but a lot. You know, you'll see changes in the right hemisphere, either up in the front. Remember we saw that actually on one of Austin's, this right frontal, I think it was the alpha. And back here, but then also in the occipital lobe. So especially people doing the psychic reading, usually you get a bunch of gamma back here in the back of the head. So which is interesting, right? Because the way that most people have described the experience so far is that it's like just seeing, right? It's like somebody cut a hole in the mask and I can see stuff. So, you know, so far, most of the people that I've worked with, it hasn't been intuitive. It's been kind of the real-time Mindsight thing, right? To use your guys' language. So that's interesting because it's like, well, what is it? Is it psychic, or is it, what I think is that however you're getting the information, whether it's a psychic reading, you're doing, it's clairvoyance or whatever, whether you're doing that or you're doing Mindsight, if you're seeing information in your head, however it gets there, we don't know how it gets there. However it gets there, your brain has to still process it. Your brain has to make some sort of sense out of it. 'Cause that's
And give it to you.
and
in
give
a
it
way.
to you,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the brain does, right? The brain is constantly trying to make sense out of the world. That's its primary
I
job.
think the brain actually makes sense, we're just trying to figure out how to translate it.
Right, and I think that's actually what's happening here, right? Is that the information comes in however it comes in, and then the brain has to translate it into something that you can perceive.
Correct.
And so it needs the visual processing centers to do that. So whether it's psychic or whether it's Mindsight, it makes sense to me that we would see so much back here. And gamma is interesting in particular, not to linger there too much, but because gamma, it's the fastest brainwave that we deal with. And I don't know how many people I've heard say, oh, it helps to be in a good mood, to be happy, which is a higher vibration state, right? And so, that's interesting. Higher vibration and the highest frequency. Gee, do those go together? Yes, they do. We have other data that shows that when you're in a compassionate state, gamma ramps up. When you're in a loving state, when you're in a state of awe, gamma ramps up. Gamma is also associated with expanded states of consciousness. So when people take psychedelics, not that I'm necessarily advocating that. You notice I said necessarily. Jeff said. Yeah. we got 5 people taking this. Right?
Do
Jeff
not
said,
try this at home.
Yeah.
Unless you want to.
But the primary thing you see in brainwaves and psychedelics is that all the brainwaves drop except gamma.
To the ego.
And gamma will ramp up, right? So it's kind of like you're getting additional information. Part of what gamma does is integrates high-level information, but without effort. So you ever notice if you try too hard, it doesn't work?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like you got to be in a flow state.
Yeah.
That's what gamma does, right? Gamma's like a flow state. It's like you get high-level information, but you're not straining to make it work, right? To get it. Gamma's also been implicated in lucid dreaming, which is interesting, right? Because you're asleep. Or are you?
Yeah,
Right? It's also been shown that at the moment of death, there's a giant spike of gamma. So gamma's interesting. We don't fully understand what's up with gamma, but clearly it's associated with expanded
Do you
higher
notice
states.
on when people are, about to pass, they get lucid real quick for about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
That could be that.
it could be, right?
Which is very consistent with hospice workers and
Yeah.
volunteers in the
They'll
hospice.
be, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden 10 seconds. Yeah, and then they.
Yeah. So we could keep talking for hours about this, but I know you still have a bunch of stuff to do. Are there any quick questions before I just kind of like wrap this up and get back to it?
It's more of a comment.
Yeah.
I think as someone who's practicing to open his windows further, it would be amazing to see any tips or tricks that you can infer from the data. Like, I'd be curious if you have any subjects who are demonstrating the real-time window Mindsight ability, but are not exhibiting very high beta, and that might imply that like it could be totally fine to just enter a zenned out state and not focus too hard.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. And of course, we don't know the answer yet. But so before this weekend, or week, I guess it's been a whole week, right? Before this week, I had mentioned the other day I've collected some preliminary data on a few people, and they didn't go through this whole same process, right? Because it was sort of a pilot, so we were just kind of checking some stuff out. But the very first person that I tested was a 14-year-old who'd been practicing this for about 2.5 years, and different program, different process, But I mean, the most solid 14-year-old I've ever met. I mean, I was like, holy crap. I mean, she was just like, she was great. And we ran her through, I had her drawing stuff. I would draw something with different colored pencils, and then she would copy it with the mask on. She was reading out of books. She was, it didn't matter what we did. She was just like killing it, right? She didn't have to strain her face at all. She was super chill, super calm. So I got lucky that the very first person that I ever got to map was like really solid, right? And could do a lot of things. And her brain waves, she didn't show any of the fast stuff.
Yeah.
It was alpha and theta
Wow.
is what
Feels like-
increased.
Feels like,
Interesting.
maybe it's just an intuition, but from what I've heard from different programs, it feels like if the beta levels are low and you're able to just put all that energy output, let's say, into alpha and theta, then you probably are getting the clearest results.
It very well may be. And what we may be seeing with the beta and high beta is a little bit of a level of efforting, right? Which again, I mean, I'm glad that I've practiced this a little bit because I can relate, right, to the times where I'm like straining, right? Do you ever have that feeling where it's like, come on, and like, so that could be some of that beta and high beta, right? It's like efforting, you're working. But like if you get to a point where it's like she was, like literally she was like, oh yeah, windows are open, okay, go, right? And it was like she didn't have to try, giant windows,
Effortless for her.
effortless. So it makes sense that it might be more of that alpha theta, more relaxed, chill internal state.
So is it like for the girl you're just talking about, maybe she's kind of learned it and so it's effortless and then the learning is what's lighting up everybody else? Is that kind of the impression you get?
I think that makes sense. I hadn't actually thought it through until the question came up, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
Have you thought about measuring the person's heart? Greg Braden always talks about these experiences being connected between the heart and the brain, and maybe
Yeah.
there's a correlation there. Have you
Absolutely.
measured
We were
that?
chatting about that this morning.
Yeah.
And yes, there's about 1,000 additional things that we want to test. So this is kind of like step one, right? Step one of about 100. So absolutely, it'd be great to measure kind of what's going on with the coherence in the heart and the gut. There'd be a lot of things that would be really, interesting. And, kind of like we were saying, more experienced people versus newer. Is there a difference? I've got data with one blind individual, right? So it's like, do people who aren't sighted, does it look different in their brains than people who are sighted, right? Like there's like a million questions, right? Trish.
Well, now that you said that, I'm just kind of curious with your data from the person who you did with blind compared to, for instance, Austin's. What was the brain activity kind of like?
Yeah. And so he doesn't mind me sharing, but that was Sean. Anybody that knows Sean?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that he saw his wife's face?
I saw that post. And so I saw Sean right at the beginning of him starting to open up. So it was right at the beginning. So I would suspect it's different now. So back to the other question, right? Like, what if you looked at people as they progressed? Does it look different? So I would suspect that Sean's brain looks different now. But it was interesting. And so those of you that don't know Sean, he actually doesn't even have any eyeballs.
I love that.
No.
They're both
Prosthetics.
prosthetics.
They're prosthetics.
Yeah.
They had them both removed from the age of, under the age of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, as well as part of his optic nerves.
Correct.
Right? So it's like, because he had cancer, and so that was what they had to do. So that's interesting too, right? Because it's kind of like, wow, it's really hard to argue that it's like, well, maybe the eyes are picking up something. It's like,
There are no eyes.
you can't even make that argument, right? But so for Sean, his was interesting because actually what he showed was an increase of the slow brain waves, delta and theta, and the fast, but no alpha.
Interesting. He never had that stimuli.
Who knows, right? I mean, again, like, this is all preliminary data, so that's why we need a lot more, right? So that we can say, are there consistent patterns? Or is it just totally individual? What I suspect is there are patterns, and it's going to take a lot of data to figure out what the heck they are. Thank God for machine learning.
You mentioned the last time you spoke about goggles and how color may impact that.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations on being able to choose the different levels of color or resources you can direct us to about that, please?
Yeah, so I was talking about the light and sound stimulation, so audio-visual entrainment. And I've only done a little bit of preliminary testing with this, so what I'm saying is just speculative.
Sure.
But if we think about the gamma, like if we suspect that gamma is a player here, which I think it probably is, and by the way, if you think about it, if you're flashing lights in your eyes, what's the primary part of the brain that's going to get activated? Visual cortex. It's light, it's stimulation, it's light stimulation, right? So you can flash the lights at 40 hertz, which is gamma. So it's 40 cycles per second, right? So it's really fast, right? And so what we know from other research, this was published a couple of years ago, somebody did a study. I love it when people do studies. I'm like, dude, that's exactly what I needed to know, right? You know, thank you. But they were using light stimulation, flicker, at different frequencies with different colors to see which are the most effective at increasing gamma. And what they found was actually that it was like 38 hertz, not 40. We always think of gamma as being like 40 hertz. 38 hertz had the strongest effect, and the color red
Really?
had the strongest effect,
Okay.
followed by white light.
Wow.
And white makes sense because it's got all the colors,
Yeah.
right? But it's interesting that red and gamma do seem to go together. They seem to have some sort of relationship.
Interesting.
So are you suggesting that we could adjust a strobe to 38, choose red, and use that to help stimulate the Mindsight?
Yep.
And is that the one that would most stimulate it?
Yes.
So if I have a red light at 38 hertz, put it right back here.
Does
Yeah,
it gotta
or
go through your
or stick
eyes?
it right on in front of your
Yeah,
eyes.
don't come down here, put it on the front.
And through the blindfold, or lift the blindfold up and have your eyes open?
I mean,
Well, not
I wouldn't do
eyes
it. Well,
Well, if you have
I
the
don't know.
entrainment system, like
you'd
the
have to have your
Brainwave
eyelids shut.
entrainment,
Yeah.
you can choose whichever colors, green,
yes,
blue.
yeah. You can choose whatever colors.
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting red might be the way to go,
Best.
or white, right?
That's awesome.
And so I think it's worth trying all of those.
Perhaps have your eyes
variations.
closed
Have-
and lift the mask up so it's coming through your closed eyelids.
Yeah. So what's interesting is because usually when you use audio visual entrainment, you do it eyes closed. You put the glasses on, but it goes through your eyelids. It doesn't matter,
Right.
right? You know.
So maybe
you
we've
can
got
still see.
somebody in the group, Hunter,
Hunter.
that wants to experiment with this.
Do you have any other frequency that you found did anything?
So the other one that might be of particular interest, again, because we've seen alpha increase with everybody except Sean, and another study just came out recently. My nerd is coming out, right? It's like, oh, a research study. But they came out, and what they found was that they were using light and sound stimulation at different frequencies and getting people subjective responses. And alpha was the one that increased visualization the best. And so I thought that was interesting because I wouldn't have predicted that necessarily, but that's what they found. So alpha might be an interesting one as well, both because that's what we keep seeing and because of that research.
What frequency is that?
10 hertz or around 10.
So if anybody's coming to London May 2nd at 10, we could maybe have some stuff ready and experiment. We experiment in every single training, so,
Well, I can work with that a little bit too.
okay. Go ahead, Barry.
So I have brain tuners, and these basically do binaural beats. And I have gamma if anyone wants to play with this.
So, yeah, do it. Zap your brain.
Yeah.
I think I can put that together. I've got a frequency generator and an amplifier, so I think I can create this. So I may try to do that and see.
Yeah, do it.
what we'll get.
I've tried it a couple of times with myself with different protocols. I did an EMDR based protocol.
Right.
So the lights are shifting right to left visual fields. Bam, 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 bam. I tried that one. Seemed to help a little bit. So what I did was I ran that for 15 minutes and then I did my Mindsight practice. So it was subjective, right? Because I was like, does it seem easier today than it does normally or whatever? I've done 3 sessions. One was the EMDR one. Not sure that did much. I did a gamma one. That definitely seemed like it did something.
Gamma's the one.
Gamma seemed like, I was like, oh, this feels way easier than normal, right? And now I can't even remember what the other one was. It wasn't alpha. It might have been theta or something. It might have been theta. I can't remember what it was. But that one also was like, maybe. So the only one that really felt for sure, for me, I'm only talking for myself, was the gamma.
Yeah.
Trish, you've had your hand up forever.
Yeah, I'm very tenacious. With your window, can you describe are you open, what are you seeing when you use your window to practice Mindsight?
Yeah, I mean, I've got kind of 2 of them,
Okay.
primarily right and left.
Okay,
But they're kind of over here.
okay.
The right one's usually bigger. And they're pretty clear. I mean, right now I'm working on kind of extending it down, both of them.
I need it too, when I'm centered.
Yeah, I moved it.
Yeah.
Because of my being blind here, like you said, everyone's usually right side. When I opened over here.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that.
Right.
So I pushed it, I took a piece of paper and pushed it, and then I kept doing that like for months.
Yeah.
So it finally came over here.
Yeah, and that's what I've been slowly starting to do, because sometimes my left one will open up way over here, and it's super difficult, right? It's like, I'm like, oh my God. Like,
So are
you
you,
know.
if with either of those windows and colors are presented to you and shapes, are you like this with them yet?
yeah, I haven't been practicing very much lately, but yeah, I was doing like decks of cards, you know, just like flying through them, right? Like ace of spades, you know, 4 clubs, whatever. So, and sometimes I could read some stuff, so if it was larger print and books and things like that.
Awesome.
So I was getting pretty decent.
Yeah, it just helps me, I guess, in my brain, because when you talk about your practice and where your brainwaves were, and now I can associate that with what you're actually seeing and experiencing, what colors and shapes. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Have you had any subject whose window is not on the front of the face?
Good question.
Great question. No, and what's interesting is because I had Dahlia, you know, I did Dahlia, and she can usually see behind her. But when I did it, it was at one of her training events, and it was like the 4th day or something, and she had a little migraine coming on, and you know, and so we tried it, but it was like not very. She was struggling a little bit with behind her, so we didn't really count that data because it was super inconsistent. So besides Dahlia, I don't think I have had anybody, which would be super cool.
I can do behind my head.
Could try headlights.
Yeah, the girls
I want to
did-
map the person who was seeing through their butt. Who was that?
Well-
You gotta do that one.
Why didn't we do that yesterday?
Well,
Yeah, totally.
the girls disclosed us last night that they can see through every body part. And I mean everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Let's just leave it right there.
Yeah, including the coochie.
Well, I didn't want to say that word. Okay.
Just go right there.
We're going to have to edit the video now.
Literally 2 of us were sitting in the laundry room
that's
on the floor.
The clothes stayed on, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, how do you figure that out? Never mind. I don't want to.
Too much information. Okay, guys, so here's the thing. I've invited Jeff to come to London, and he doesn't know for sure. He's got to check and see, confirm. And so there'll be more research done. And we will also try to get, maybe somebody in this group will put together some of this stuff that Jeff's talking about with the frequencies and so on, and we'll do more research. The whole idea is to move forward the whole time.
Yep. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.
Jeff.